Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am back and I am not alone this time because everyone's been listening to me 3 episodes in a row. I've been doing solo. Today I have Beth from Chatterkick. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be on your podcast and have a conversation with you today.
Amazing. Now, Beth, you've got an amazing story about coming from a farm in the rural Midwest. And you and I have something in common, which by the look of you, I don't know how you know this, but in school, you remember when the internet was announced. I was actually working when the internet was announced, but I do remember it very clearly when it was like, oh, what's this thing? Very exciting, but it meant a lot to you around communication and creativity, and it really struck a chord with you. But obviously you didn't start your agency in school, so you might want to tell us a little bit about how did you get into Chatterkick, and draw the line there for us.
Yeah, so it's funny because I remember I was in first grade and they called us an assembly, and it wasn't like a big to do, but I remember the teacher saying, like, you guys, this is going to change your world forever. And everybody else in the class is like, yeah, whatever, like, when's recess? But, I just remember it being very much something that I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I don't really know what this means, but somehow it's going to change my life. And I grew up on a farm, and my parents, even now, have very horrible internet service, but we had a computer even back in this is probably the late 80s. Mm-hmm. My dad was doing some of his farm stuff on one of those old giant green screen computers, and I would play hangman on it and kind of test it out. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a techie, but I have always been interested in the way things work from a visual perspective, not so much from an engineering perspective, but like, how can I meet friends or make connections? Yeah. And so, all the world of AOL and Instant Messenger was kind of where I spent my time in high school, and met a lot of friends. That way I actually ended up meeting my husband, who we met on AOL chat. So
no way. Oh, that's amazing.
Which, I mean, he lived in the same town, and we were literally, yeah, 4 or 5 miles away, but it was just a place where that conversation started. Cool. And kind of fast forward, after college, I had started working for the American Red Cross, and this was right in the time frame where businesses weren't really using social media. I mean, they were trying to figure it out, but the Red Cross was one of those first organizations that said, hey, we can let people know about where our shelters are at, about hurricanes, about lots of things that are going on in real time. And so I was working with the team in DC and just saw the power of this stuff. And honestly, at that time, the ease of it, right? It was like, I just post a blog and now everybody knows where things are at. Or I can just, put something on Facebook, or it seemed so logical to me. So I then came back and started working at our regional chamber of commerce, and was working with thousands of different businesses, and really they were saying the same thing. Like, I need to get the word out about my business. My traditional stuff isn't working. I can't measure it. What should I do? Mm-hmm. And I just kind of was taking my knowledge from social media and saying, well, just do this. Here you go. And so it just became a huge part of my role at the chamber that I decided that, maybe I should just try this out. So quit my job and started a business. Never something I ever thought I would do, but it's been a kind of a whirlwind. And Chatterkick, we are a social media agency, and we've been around for 7 years. So.
Right. And which type of clients do you work with? You're there in the Midwest, and which type of clients do you work with?
Yeah, we work with clients all across the country in lots of different verticals, but really people that are, perpetual learners. They understand that social media is more than just fluff. I think there's still a lot of agencies and just businesses that really use it as kind of a bolt-on service and not a real communication channel.
Yes.
Community building opportunity, which it's funny that we're still having the same conversations, today as I was 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
But it really is, it's a tool. And so those are the type of businesses that we work with, are people that understand that, and they want to leverage it and grow their business using it.
Amazing. And you've got a really interesting story about obviously starting as a female entrepreneur.
Yes.
And there's mainly females in the business. How many are there? And talk to me about that kind of style of agency. It's your business, you know, you can, you know, drive it whatever way you want. So I'm really keen to hear more about the females and the female slant in your interest in your agency.
Yeah, so when I started Chatterkick, my son was 20 months old, and I had, quit my job. I'm starting a new business. And 2 weeks after I quit, I found out unexpectedly found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh, God.
So I was joke that I was literally starting a business, like feeling like I was in a coma. I was so sick. I was so tired, all the way up to kind of that 28-week period. And honestly, it was hard. And it was hard not just because I didn't feel good, but people would ask me all the time, like, oh, you're just going to stay home with your kids, and like, this is going to be a little side project. And, I was like, no, this is something bigger than that. My kids will be going to the daycare. I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I ended up having a really complicated pregnancy with my daughter. And, starting a business, you don't get maternity leave. I had clients. I had sold. I needed to service what we had sold. And so it was just a very I never had thought about female entrepreneurship or even thinking that was a barrier for people, but I couldn't delegate that away, right? I couldn't delegate the doctor's appointments.
No.
It was unique to me because, I was a woman, and I think people looked at me differently because of that. And so it kind of was that aha moment to say, I'm not going to intentionally build a team of females, but I definitely empathize with people that are trying to do the family stuff. They're trying to, have babies and build businesses. And I think that kind of just outlook has naturally attracted more females to our company. And I think that the flexibility of some of these platforms really lend itself to people that are professional and power players, but they also want to have families. And we have so many Chatterkick babies that maternity leave is just like a Chatterkick.
Oh, Chatterkick babies. I love that. Yeah. And the flexibility. Yes. Yeah. The flexibility. I speak about that often. I mean, women in the workforce, when they have the baby and they want to come back, it can sometimes be challenging to find a role that they can get their teeth into while gives them the flexibility and some, that understanding as well. And, the fact that you can probably work from home, as long as you're getting the results done, you're open to technology. It's a huge workforce out there. And I can imagine the camaraderie, the loyalty you have, because, they wouldn't have that opportunity in perhaps a big corporate. There'd be a lot more 9 to 5 kind of thing. And the commute, I think the commute is probably, you can stick a lot of things, but I don't know if I could do a commute again. I've become very country mouse, or being able to go at a certain time of day that's actually less traffic or things like that.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because we have 2 main hubs, and then we have some co-working spaces. And in the Midwest, we don't have commutes. Like, it takes me 10 minutes door to door to get to my house to downtown, but or at least in the area that we live. But in our southern office, they have some pretty big commutes, and so we've just kind of adjusted their hours accordingly, because like you said, nobody wants that. I don't want my employees to get to work frustrated because they just spent an hour in the car, and they don't want it either. So we kind of just had to adjust accordingly. And I do think that flexibility, I used to view flexibility in my own head as less work and just different hours, but I think flexibility really is the same amount of work, just being able, like you said, to do it in the time period that works for you.
Got it.
And so I think that is a big misconception by a lot of employers. They think that, well, if I'm giving flexibility, I'm not going to get the same output out, but it's really not the case at all. It's just you're giving the time frame to that person to make it.
And I don't have kids myself, but I've seen my sister do more in a 1.5 hour nap time that
right?
she got with her son that I've seen her do in a day. You know, women get very productive and they're going, I have an hour and a half, let's go. And you know, they can manage their time. They can get an awful lot done in work in that hour and a half because they're very focused, they're very lasered, and they know that it's going to end. It's almost like a Pomodoro technique, if you've heard of that, you know, setting the timer, go. So I think it's really valuable, but it hasn't been a straightforward journey. I think if you listen to some of the podcasts that I've been on before, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions and sales of agencies, but you have a fascinating story. You sold the agency, and then what happened?
And then I bought it back.
Walk me through what happened there.
Yeah, so I sold, scaled, and bought it back. Really, it ended up working out. So like, there's that rainbow at the end of the story. But and I have learned so much over the course of the last 7 years. I didn't know how to start a business. I really leaned on every person that I knew that had done it. I don't have I didn't do it for the money. It was really, I think if I look back, the motivation was I just wanted to prove people wrong, right? That I could. And I knew I could help, and I knew I could change things. So like there was a little bit of that like gumption in me. But I ended up I started the business with a partner. It was a really good partnership. I know there's been a lot of people say don't get into business with partners, but I had a really great opportunity with a partner. He helped me with the things that I was weak with, which is kind of the finance and details, setting everything up. He had a very high level COO that he let me like borrow for the ramp up period. And it was so critical. Like, I really don't think I could have done it if I didn't have them on board. I kind of got my feet on my own 2 feet after, I had the baby and things were going well. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can take this now. Yeah. So I bought Chatter Cake. I bought him out. And then, I had my husband, who's a CPA, kind of served in that position from the back end, the finance, HR, payroll, all that stuff for a couple of years. And then we had people approach us many of times really wanting to do investments or, partnerships. We're niche enough, especially at that time, that people were looking on how they were going to handle their social. Right. And so ended up, it was a friend of mine, a friend of the family, was part of an investment group. And he said, here's the deal. I'll let you do business as normal, and I'll just take all of the stuff that you don't want to have to deal with and a lot of that risk off of you. And I was like, okay, sure. So sold the business. They kind of came on to handle all the back end administration. My employees got benefits, all the things that I wanted to do, but it was just, it was too much at that time. I was about 6 employees. Right. Okay. And then I wanted to grow, and I wanted to grow fast. I wanted to try that part of, business out. Yeah. And so we went from 6 employees to 22, maybe even 26. I've had a sales team of 6 people, which, as you know, in the agency world is very unheard of. Absolutely. Yes. Wow. And we just kind of, it was chaos internally for a couple of years, just because growing that fast, there's so much. So many growing pains. So many things. Mm-hmm. But my team was amazing, and I don't have anything to say about the people. It's just we didn't have the processes and systems, which is what happens when you're growing, right? So we had operated that as their entity. I'm really kind of isolated in many regards from that investment group, and they had some change of management and leadership, and really said, this is the only slightly technology company in our portfolio, and we're done with that category. So I was like, well, I'm not done. Yeah. So I bought the company back, bought all the employees, obviously, came with the purchase of the business, and really said, okay, great, this is our opportunity to kind of revamp. And again, it was still business as usual from a customer perspective. That didn't really change very much. And even our employees, we kind of had an opportunity to look at our structure of our team members, but that was 1.5 years ago, and things are just plugging right along. So it's definitely been interesting. It's a fun story, and like I said, it's worked out well, because one of the things that I realized when I purchased the company back is I can do this at a 22-person agency. The fears that I had weren't necessarily fears that I should have had.
Right. And it sounds like you've kept the company culture going, or did it change or did it evolve? How do you keep that? Like that is kind of the core incubator, as you know, growing, changing, handing over, handing back. What are the kind of key things you've done to keep that culture, or how did it evolve?
I mean, I think it definitely has evolved. And I think culture is just the sum of your team at that time. Like it's a constantly moving thing.
Yeah.
It goes in these waves of newness and excitement and then revamping and revitalization. So I definitely think it's just a constant, ocean. But I had my first employee that started here at Cheddar Cake and my second employee that they're now on the leadership side of the organization. But I think that consistency helped a ton. Our first employee that we had when we opened the new office has been here. So we've had some, stable leadership over the last 7 years, and that has been huge. And then I think, the other part of culture is just genuinely caring. Like I genuinely care about the people. And so always making sure that when I would take those steps of, whether it's selling or buying or whatever, like the thing that made me the most nervous every single time and the thing that really was the hardest was just going through every single employee and saying, is this going to be better for them? Is this going to be better for them? And if I could get all yeses, that's how I made the decision. Because I really do feel like it has been a better evolution.
Yeah. And is there plans to which is your growth trajectory? Because as you know, like with an agency, it can be revenue, profit, or people. What's your kind of way you're thinking of going in the next 7 years?
Yeah, I think really focusing and honing in on, what we're good at, how social plays a part in people's business. I think profit and revenue are definitely like the leading portions of that, because I think there's lots of opportunities that we can insert our expertise into a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
People, I would imagine will stay under the 50-person mark. I like the large enough scale that, people can go on vacation and you can have some stability, but not too big where you lose track of, who's who or what someone's, excited about.
Yeah.
I like that feeling.
Yeah, I think that I've had that experience a few times in companies. I think it's like up to the 120 mark. I think it's a psychology thing. It's like the old village. You would know everyone's name. And then after, I think it's 120 people, you don't know who's who. And I found that working in companies before, I really don't like not knowing someone's name. And I also like knowing something about them that I can pick up the conversation, like how was rowing at the weekend? How was, the missus? Like just something to connect. And once it got to more than that, I agree. I don't like that either. You lose the touch. So it sounds like you've got a really good one-on-one relationship with everyone. How's the team managed? Do you have team leaders? How do you manage the management team?
Yeah, so this is something we've changed just the last even year. We've consistently and continuously refined this because, social is an evolving platform.
Right,
so
yeah.
Every single day. And so we're constantly shifting our team so that we're filling the right spot. So now we currently have pods that have multiple technicians that work on that team.
Yeah.
And they consist of an account manager, someone who handles the ads and audiences, kind of a little bit more of a technician, but they still work with clients directly to let them know, some of the strategic plays. We have an engagement coordinator, and those people are doing kind of the social media management, the community management, so much response moderation, contextual learning of those comments. And then we have a creative. And the creatives within those pods have to be fast creators. It's not traditional graphic designers. Like you can't spend 3 hours on one Instagram story or you're already under.
You've got your utilization. Yeah, That's interesting to know about the pods. I've been hearing quite a few of that coming out of the States recently, the pod structure. We're still running a lot of linear teams over here in Europe. But very interested to hear more about the pods coming through the agency structure. That's fascinating. But all not, I'm not you've listened to enough episodes now that we have the lovely stories and the rosy stories, but this is about the reality of running an agency. And one of the things that you've kind of came up through your questionnaire back to me was advice that we give other agencies. Talk to me about the times that you really didn't listen to bringing on a bad fit client and what happened there. What was the story?
So I've had an opportunity to kind of reflect of what are the things that I are big learning opportunities, big failures. I think understanding, and it's still a hard challenge, like when is the time to let a client go and when is the time to just realign what you're saying to the client so it fits their personality type, right? Because I think sometimes we get head-to-head with clients just because they're looking maybe for the data and we're telling them the wrong thing. Like we're telling them the excitement and the engagement, and it's just a misalignment. So trying to figure out, when you can kind of realign and when you just are on separate pages. And one of the quotes that I've heard from Gary Vaynerchuk is just, when can you fire a client? And his first advice is when you can afford to fire a client. And I think that's a great answer because there's sometimes you can't, right? It's like, never set this up.
Yeah.
But I think that time when you really get to say no, like, I'm sorry, you're giving me money, but this is not working. It's a big moment in your agency life and journey. And it's been one that it hurts, but it's also such a breath of fresh air because you realize that, man, that was really taking our time. Like we were spending so much energy on that, and it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I love that that realignment. I think there's a sort of an inflection point in an account that perhaps there is a time to give maybe training to the team on, if you are hearing these things, it is time to realign. Like it's not in the timeline, it's not the monthly report, it's not the strategy workshop. That's I think that you've just brought something really good to light. Is that something you do? Just go and listen for this. It's time to realign.
Yes, and it's a constant conversation because some people, just the longer that you've done this, the more you understand some of those signals. Yeah. But sometimes, if you're just kind of starting, you don't always understand, like you said, when they say this, they actually mean this. And, there's a huge education trajectory in social. Again, people still don't get it. They don't understand what Facebook advertising looks like, what it means, how complicated it can be.
Yeah, how it changes.
Right. And so it's that education, but it's also, knowing when to kind of push back a little bit and say, you hired me to do this. Mm-hmm. Telling me to do all these other things, it's preventing us to get your goals. So either we need to focus on your goals or we need to just part ways because I can't be distracted over here if you want me to actually do what you hired me for.
Yeah. Is that part of the education process with the clients that you bring on board as well, to going, these things change, Instagram is going to change, there isn't the clear, it's not as, I guess, as simple as, content in a more straightforward way. How do you set their expectations around that?
It's something that I don't have a magic solution for. One of the things we're testing is requiring some high level strategy coaching before they even get to buy our normal retainer management services.
Got it. Yeah.
Because if we can set those expectations and really the trust up front, then the rest of it is an execution game. And that's the exciting part in many regards, because that's when we start getting results and information and data. But a lot of times we get stuck in that first part of I don't get this. I don't know how it works. And we've done this with reports and kind of, audits and discoveries and plans, but I don't think they read all the plans or it's a one meeting. So that's one thing that we're testing right now is it's a 4-session kind of strategy.
Got it.
Time frame so that we get into an engagement smoother.
Deep qualifying, really deep qualifying, really deep understanding, and partnerships. Like that's what I'm seeing a lot with agencies as well. It's where the bad fit comes in is there's more of a dictatorship going. You're going to do this for us. When you can get into partnership and deeply understand their business and work together. So when the hiccups do happen, because they're going to happen, at least you've had a relationship there and that deep qualifying. That's really interesting. Keep us posted on how those workshops go. Fascinated by the social media side of things. What would be your big tips for 2020? What are you excited about when it comes to the social space that you're seeing working really well?
I think one of the things that we're doing right now that I'm really excited about is, and we do this manually. I know that there's ways to automate this and make it much better, but a lot of the social media management softwares have, tagging and contextual marking reports. And one of the things that I think gets missed with a lot of in-house teams, which are really our biggest competition, is they're not using these softwares. So they're not able to roll up at the end of the year how many times someone asked a question, right?
Right.
Well, if you take those questions and turn them into blog posts, all of a sudden that is your content for the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And so they're missing that kind of element. And we do a lot with employee branding, recruitment, digital recruitment. And so we just tag on the back end. Is somebody asking about a job? Are they asking about how to apply? Are they asking about, the benefits? And we put all that information together again. So it's a business data tool at this point. It is not a marketing tool. It's not lead gen. It is your data source. And it's not any change in the technologies of the platforms. It's a change of how we're viewing the platforms. And that excites me because we are guaranteed results from that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So if I think of, practical example of that, I do it all the time. I might ask someone a direct message in Instagram or a company or go there, and that could be pulled through as frequently asked questions, videos, blog posts, articles, if there's enough of them. They could vote it up. What a great idea. That's so cool. I love that. Are you following any of the marketing AI software and technology coming through? I'd say you're a bit excited about that too.
Yes, I am. And I think that there are some really cool ones out there. I think, however, that there's also and one of the reasons why we don't automate everything is there is also a shock value to a human. I mean, the amount of times that we respond back to people and they're like, oh, someone's actually here. This is a real thing. It's a real person. Her name is, Jill or whatever. I think that it calms people. It actually takes down their anger level. So that side of it, I really love the human interaction on. But I do think a lot of these platforms are trying to make it easier to the softwares that have some of the contextual learnings and automations. There's some cool stuff in there.
Cool, very cool. So the kids now are, let me do a very basic maths. 8 and 6. No.
Close. 7. My daughter just turned 7 because she's a February, or she was born in July, and then my son's 9 now. So
okay. I was trying to work back there from 20 months and the other. Not very good at that. Talk to me about how are you managing your time, work-life balance? How's that going? Being a mother, being an agency owner, how are things going? How do you manage it? What's your tricks?
So I don't have any solutions. Since I started Chatter Cake, my husband was he's a CPA by trade. Once I bought the company back, he's like, I got to do my own thing. So he actually started his own business. We have two entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And our days are very busy and crazy. And I think a couple of consistents that have worked for me, and a piece of advice, and I don't know where I heard this, was it's not a balance, it's a loop. So if you get home and you're energized, you're not angry about the day. Yes, you're tired, but you feel like you've accomplished something. You will feel better about your home life, and then that will instantly lead to a loop. And I'm like, it seems like such a much better way to approach it than to feel like you're constantly giving one more attention than the other. I think the other thing is just dinners. We make it a point to have dinner together as a family. It's not always the most fancy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we're at a restaurant, but that's been a pretty consistent thing we've done, even when our kids are, tired and not sitting still and all the right? It's not this magical thing that you see on TV, but it's a thing that we just try to do.
You're not wearing an apron and doing a 4-course meal.
No.
It's like with the candles on. No. Everyone getting changed into new outfits. But just the center, grounding, coming together. I mean, it is such a simple thing, but I love that idea. And like you said, it could be a sandwich and a cracker. It's right. We sit down and we talk. How's your day? I'm cranky. Well, why are you cranky?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my kids, we also make sure that, it's not just kid talk. Like, we talk about our days, like we go around the table and everybody
nice.
Says, best part, worst part, and what's one thing you could improve. This was my kids' idea. I think they learned it at school, but
I love it. But
it is something, they think it's the best. And it does kind of give you a little bit of gratitude and reflection. Mm-hmm. And they have worst parts of their day. And I don't sugarcoat when, things didn't go my way.
Yeah.
And I hope that they grow up with a sense of like accountability and entrepreneurship, whether they're entrepreneurs or not. You know what I mean? That's the one thing that I think is so important, is just being able to take something and make it better. Or take something and build it upon it is a really great skill of starting something.
Yeah, and that's fantastic experience as well. Just to, if you're going around the table and you didn't have a good day, and you can say it in a way like, oh, well, we lost a client today and I'm really upset because I loved working with them, but we didn't do this. They can see that mom is still sitting down. She's still talking. She didn't go to bed. It was, like you're showing them something bad happened, but I'm still here and I'm upset, but it will be okay. Because I think shielding them out, you see that a lot, especially the kids that we work with sometimes in agencies. They were so shielded by things that when something bad happens, it literally is the end of the world.
Right.
You have to kind of go, it's all right, it's going to be okay, we'll get through this. Love that idea. You another personal thing that you do to maximize your time, I was reading about your some of your personal habits, podcasts, and being able to consume that. Talk to me about some of the podcasts that you like listening to, if we haven't heard of any. I'm always keen.
Yeah, so I love podcasts, and everything from kind of the like gossip and news to like very specific. One of my favorites for agencies, I really like I think it's called Two Bobs. I don't know.
Cool.
It's a really good one. There's two kind of consultants that talk about that podcast. They have some really good information on independent agency owners, which I think is a really big category that's hungry for information, like myself.
Yeah.
I love the Gimlet Media podcast, specifically Reply All is one of my favorites.
Nice.
That's a good one. And then I actually I'm the host of a couple podcasts as well. One is Generation Social Media. It's one we just launched through Chatterkick. So we talk about really breaking the stereotypes and barriers of social media. And, it's not what you think in many regards. And then I have another one with technology entrepreneurs and leaders throughout Iowa, and that's the state we live in. And it's been great. I've been able to talk to technologists across state, and we just kind of talk about women in technology. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions, so we try to break down those barriers in that
Incredible.
podcast.
Send us over the link, will you, for those, to make sure I get them right. I'm going to put them in the show notes. I'm all about sharing the love on this. And in fact, it's quite, just as you were talking there, I've been meeting a lot of agency owners, and as much as I love my podcast, I love hearing about more, but I have been sharing two specifically while we're here, if anyone wants to listen to more. There's one called Distributed, all about the distributed workforce, people working from home, remote workforce. And it's only a new one, and it's by the guy who set up WordPress, and he's got a company called Automatic. Matt is his name. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. But he has a lovely soft lull in a voice, like, when you've it's a really, really nice voice. And then amazing one. I've never listened to these before, but one of those crime ones by Neil Strauss, called To Live and Die in LA. He went all detective on following the story. And for the first time, I listened to it with my coworker, Carly. We had been doing a lot of driving up and down Ireland. and I'd never listened to a podcast with somebody else, and we were gripped. Like, it was, you know, we couldn't wait to listen to the next episode. So for a little break, it can't all be business. I'd recommend that one, and I'd recommend Distributed for anyone who's listening here as well. Especially now that agencies are encouraging people to work from home, how do you manage everything? And then if you have remote workers as well, which would be a really good one. Okay, well, we're kind of getting to a wrap-up stage here, but you have been amazing. I really appreciate the information you've been sharing. There's agencies out there now, you know, you can imagine 7 years ago you were setting up. There was no podcast about agencies. There was very little information. There's people out there now who are starting, like they're actually going to, you know, sit around their kitchen table, maybe with their partner, maybe with their friend, maybe they're on their own, maybe with the 20-month-old hanging off their hip. Now they're going, oh, if their friends are like, you shouldn't be doing that, they'll go, hang on a second, I remember there's this chick and she did her.
Yes, I am happy to talk to anybody about that stuff. I am more than willing to share and even just acknowledge that it's tough. I don't always have the answers, but
what would be your one tip for somebody out there? What's your kind of golden thing, all the things that they're going to be worried about? What advice would you give them?
I think knowing yourself and being self-aware, that is one of the things that has worked so well for me, because the things that sucked my energy, right, which was like finances, billing, invoicing, all of that, would have been such a huge distraction if I didn't just offload that from the beginning. Yeah. I was kind of set up to do my thing, and where I was just naturally good at talking to people, making connections, and knowing that. And, you know, we all have different personality types, but leaning into what is already working for you and then supplementing that with wherever you are, you know, not even just weak, because I think that's not the right word, but where your energy is just not well spent.
Yeah. Yeah. Your strengths. I mean, in the beginning, you do have to do everything in your agency. You've got to wear all the hats, but you got to figure out quickly which hat are you going to let go of as soon as possible. And please pick the one that you don't like, or you don't like, you're not good at, you know, like, just get rid of that. That's always what I'm encouraging agency owners to do. Well, Beth, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate having a strong female entrepreneur, agency owner on the show. Where can people find you? Chatterkick.com is the website, but how would we get in touch with you? What's your favorite way? What's your favorite social?
So you can always email me. It's just Beth@chatterkick.com. But you can connect with me on all the channels. My personal Twitter is Trey_Beth. My Instagram is Beth Trey. So
yeah.
Actually, I think it's BETTRE. And then you can always connect with us. All of our handles are just Chatterkick.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, we're gonna check you guys out. We'll stay in touch, and I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you very much for all this incredible advice.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much.
And I'll see you on the next show, everybody. There's a few lined up, so stay tuned. You're not going to listen to me over and over again. Bye.